Soundstripe. Soundstripe.
Welcome in, everyone, to Lock In Live, Week 4 NFL with Uncle Phil and Smooth Andy. Thanks, everyone for joining us this Sunday morning. Really appreciate your love and support. Uncle Phil, Smooth Andy, how you guys doing this morning?
Good. Pretty excited about the day. Nice to have a great winning Sunday like we did last week. Just absolutely crushed NFL last week. Smooth Andy and I were out in Vegas, had a great time, and made lots of cash. So it was good weekend, and kind of figuring out who the teams are. Smooth Andy, what about you? How do you feel about the NFL teams right now? Do you feel like you kind of have an idea who they are, or are we still?
No. No, I was actually just thinking about that earlier when I was looking at the Don Best numbers about, the point spreads and the splits and everything, and then MGM and everybody else. A lot of evenly bet games, not a lot of lopsided bet splits. And bet splits aren't by themselves a bettable thing. It's just one of the things I look for is teams that are just getting a ton of, tickets and money. This week, there aren't a whole lot of lopsided ones. There's a lot of, 50%, 60% kind of range bets for on the most bet team. But there's a handful, but usually it's like at least half of the games, there's somebody getting 70+%. And that's not the case this week. So no big deal. I do have another angle that I'll explain later, but anyway, so I've got some bets. I've got 3 standard bets today, which I'll give out here, and then I've got some other ones later. So, but to your point about the teams, when I see those splits like that, I think nobody knows, right?
Yep.
What's Chicago? What's Pittsburgh? Are they good? Are they not? Denver? Is Denver okay? I don't know. We're in that area right now where nobody's sure what's going on, especially with all those 0-2 teams that won last week. I mean, I think that just woke everybody up to like, wait a minute, maybe I don't know anything,
Yeah, so I think I'm at the point where I think I know who the teams are. I didn't know the first 2 weeks. I felt better. Things that happened last week made sense to me. I felt like I was in mid-season form last week. I felt like, typically for me, more data I have, the better I get as far as my picks. I literally liked every game last week and just crushed last week. So it was good for me. We'll see how much I know this week. The NFL has a funny way of humbling you.
Yes, it does.
What did you guys end up going combined out in Vegas last week? I mean, before last week's show, you said we're going to crush it on NFL Sunday, and sure enough, you guys did. What was the exact number? I mean, it was up there, right?
Well, my notebook went 6-3. I personally played a few more games. I have kind of a larger swath of games that I pick from. I typically have kind of have it down to 15, then I cut it down to about 8, and then or 9. And last week I had 9, and I went 6-3 in that in the notebook. But I played a few more games. I posted those tickets online, and I think I went 7-2 on Sunday. So it was was a good weekend for me. I know it was for Smooth Andy too. I mean, you just carpet bombed a lot of stuff, and you had Smooth Andy, in addition to having some underdogs that we both played. Smooth Andy put everything on the table and pushed his chips in and went money line on Denver, on Carolina, on the Rams. And so,
the Giants,
big weekend for Smooth Andy and the Giants. Yeah. So massive day. Massive day for Smooth Andy.
Let's replicate it. Can we do that?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be awesome. So
Let's do our best.
Where are we heading first, Uncle Phil?
Yeah. We are headed to Indianapolis, where Pittsburgh's taking on Indianapolis. And Pittsburgh, Anthony Richardson can't throw. His ability to complete passes is he's barely at 50%. Got so bad during the last game, fourth quarter of the last game against Chicago, that Shane Steichen just quit letting him throw the ball and just started handing it off. I expect that again today. Pittsburgh, again, no reason to pass the ball because Indianapolis is just atrocious against the run. So I like the team. I certainly lean toward Pittsburgh, but my best bet on that one is the under 40 in that game. So I'm going to play on the total. Pittsburgh's gone on the total 3 straight games and really hadn't even been a sweat. And so I kind of expected that. I'm a little surprised this total is as high as it is. So I'll go with that. The next one, Smooth Andy and I might be a little head-to-head on this one, is I'm going Kansas City -7.5 at the Chargers. The Chargers, look, it's a division dog. There's a lot of reasons to take the Chargers in that regard, but with Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater and a banged out, and so you have both tackles out, and then you have a banged up Herbert. And that's just assuming that Herbert finishes the game, and if you could have, so you have Easton Stick, so you're cutting down on mobility. So I just think that you have some really not great matchups for the Chargers today. I think they're going to be very limited offensively, not like Kansas City's offense. Offense has been very explosive. They really don't have a mid-range or a vertical passing game at this point. Xavier Worthy's really just kind of a gadget guy at this point. So, and it looks like Travis Kelce's kind of playing his way into shape. They're kind of going to Rashee Rice, making him his number one, making him into the number one, doing a lot of crossing patterns with him. So, kind of what I look. One of the statistics that all those things made me just think Kansas City's the natural choice in this. But the other thing is that Kansas City is 9-2 against the spread on the road versus the Chargers under Andy Reid. So for those reasons, I like Kansas City as my second best bet.
I love it. Love the Chiefs. Smooth Andy, how about you? How are you going to replicate things from last week?
Well, I'm going to give it a shot. We'll start with just the straight bets. I took my biggest one is the Chargers. That one's the one. It's a 4-dog number for me. I do like the division dog. I understand Uncle Phil's a practical guy who's going to think about injuries and things that he should think about. And I'm just a guy who's just going to look at numbers. And I do like it when a division dog getting more than a touchdown pops up on my radar because it's consistent with the way I like to play the games. So I've got them. So that's Chargers. I've got Indianapolis as well, which I don't love, but I do think Pittsburgh is a bit of a Trojan horse right now at 3-0. I don't think they're really a front runner team, and sooner or later they're going to get exposed. And Indy couldn't have looked much worse last week, especially Richardson, to Uncle Phil's point. And finally, I'm going to go with Tampa Bay against Philadelphia. Philly's got some injuries. I think both of their wide receivers, their starting wide receivers, are out. Lane Johnson is out. And this one just popped up on my radar as well, and I like this because Tampa looked pretty bad last week. Philadelphia won a big game. Everybody's high in Philadelphia. I'm kind of happy that Tampa popped up on my radar. And then finally, well, actually, two more things. One, I just grabbed New England just as Uncle Phil was talking because I cannot turn down plus 10.5 against anybody. I don't care who it is. So I threw New England on. That's not a system play. It's just doing what I think I need to do when I see 10.5 points being offered to me. And finally, I've been doing some research over the years, and this is one of the things I've researched, which is what 0-3 teams' records are when they play in Week 4. And going back to 2015, which is about as far back as I think I could find data on the betting, there were 29 games between 0-3 teams and non-0-3 teams. 18 of them covered, which is 67%, and 14 of them won outright, which is 48%. So I'm going to go with 0-3 Jacksonville +6, 0-3 Cincinnati -4.5, and 0-3 Tennessee +2.5. Plus, I'm going to hit a half unit on Jacksonville +210 money line and Tennessee +120 money line. So that's the explanation. When you see my tweet, that's why it's those 0-3 teams, just carpet bombing them this week.
Definitely. Well, now it's time to get to some questions. But before we do, we're going to do something a little different today. We posted the link to the StreamYard where we're broadcasting the show live. If you want to come up on camera, you're welcome to do so. It's posted right there on the screen, the link. And it's also posted in the comment under the Twitter post where we went live. So if you want to do that, that's great. If not, we already have some great comments in the chat, the traditional way. But just throwing that out there for anyone that wants to be on camera.
Hey, Matt, they also don't have to come on camera. They can just come on stage and have their camera off like you do.
Yeah, that works too.
Yeah.
Whatever works. But
Sure.
we'll try it today and let's see what happens. But anyways, let's get to some of the questions in the comments. First on the line, we have question about the Eagles. Andrew from Dallas is wondering about Eagles +1, even with Lane down for the Eagles. I know Smooth Andy just talked about that game, but Uncle Phil, any thoughts?
Yeah. Look, the Eagles record, the Eagles have a losing record without Lane Johnson there. It's a tough one, but I think this matchup probably favors them. With Tampa Bay's right tackle out the past two games, they've given up 12 sacks, Baker has. And also with the Tampa Bay's run defense is 31st in run efficiency. So I think that Philadelphia can, I like their defensive front last week. They brought that much pressure on David Carr. I think they can do the same thing with Baker, and I think they can run the ball. So I think that is I lean toward Philadelphia. I had it on my big board of about 15, and I cleaned it off, but I do like that one.
Hey, hope that helps, Andrew. Thanks for the question. Next on the line, we got a comment from Nicholas McCoy. He says, any thoughts on the over or under in the Atlanta and New Orleans game?
Yeah, I've got a lot of thoughts on it. Smooth Andy, I know you don't do any totals typically.
I track them a little bit, but I typically don't bet them. I think I've got one Monday night, by the way, but we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. I do have a thought on that one. It's in the notebook. So I won't really talk about it, but look, I think this should be an entertaining game. Look, the spread, I think, is 2.5 for the Falcons, and both teams are beat up on the offensive line. Both teams, kind of oddly enough, both centers are out for each team. So it'll be interesting to see how it does. See if how Atlanta bounces back from that loss last week. See if New Orleans bounces back. If they go back to the first two games of Derek Carr, or if he goes back to the Derek Carr of last week, if he goes back to the Carr he's always been. So be an interesting game. We'll see how that one is, but I like the side and the total in that game.
Awesome. Thanks for the question, Nicholas, and thanks for being a repeat viewer of the show. We love your support. Next up, we got Tyler Traver on Twitter. He says, thoughts on Packers Vikings. Packers have some issues in secondary, and is Jordan really 100%? I just saw Jair Alexander's not playing. What do you guys think on that one? Big game.
Yeah, Smooth Andy, your any thoughts on that game?
Unfortunately, absolutely not. It's very evenly bet. It should be a really good game. I'm really excited to watch how this plays out because those are two very good teams in that division. But no flags whatsoever on either side showed up on my radar today. So yeah, I'm afraid I'm just a neutral observer this week on that.
Yeah, the public is on Minnesota. The Sharps are on Green Bay, and I stayed away because I feel like a public guy on this one because I like Minnesota. It just feels like the ultimate trap game because, why is Minnesota getting 3 points? Minnesota's looked all world. Jordan Love, before he went out, I thought he looked really bad against the Eagles the first game. I thought he had regressed. I thought he didn't look good. Smooth and I talked about it in our preseason podcast where we talked about how, will CJ Stroud or will Jordan Love, will one of those quarterbacks regress? And CJ Stroud still looks good. He just is running for his life because their offensive line's so bad in Houston. But Jordan Love, he did not look good before that. And maybe it was the grass there, in the field they were playing at in Brazil. But it remains to be seen. So that's why I pulled off of it. I just think that if Brian Flores' defense can confuse Brock Purdy and CJ Stroud, I got to believe that it will confuse Jordan Love as well. So that's kind of my take on it. I'm not sure. I think they're Matcher probably a little bit closer to the team, but I'd heard that Jordan Addison was actually practicing a little bit. Is he going to play today?
Yeah.
So you got George. So you got another weapon back for Sam Darnold. So everybody's like, oh, well, now that you don't have that home field advantage, Sam Darnold, he's going to throw picks and become back that person. I think he's got a chance of, we talked about Derek Carr. Which way will he go? Will he regress and come back, be the Derek Carr of old? Sam Darnold, I believe this is who he is. We've seen just because Kevin O'Connell, the way he structures the offense, the way he puts his offense in motion so much, does a lot of play action. He really gets is, again, people call him the tall Sean McVay. He gets the defense to be in the defenses he wants it to be in by his motion. And because of that, then he gets Sam Darnold to throw in those areas that it's designed to. So he does a great job of play design, great job of motion, great job of getting the opponent's defense into the positions they don't want to be in, but he wants them in. So I kind of think they'll be there, but like Andy, I think this is going to be a wildly entertaining game. Looking forward to it. Didn't make my notebook today, but if I had a choice, I'd lean Minnesota.
I like to hear that as a Vikings fan. I hope we win that one. So thanks for the question, Tyler. Next up, we're going to Jordan Locks. Says, is it going to be a shootout in Carolina today? Two poor defenses.
I think so. I think the over 47 actually made my big board before I trimmed it. It didn't. I'll probably regret that, just like I regretted yesterday having, I think on the show, I think I gave out Indiana, I gave out Kansas State, and I gave out Navy. It's like that I just trimmed those off, and those three would all been winners instead of going 5-3 yesterday. I'd gone 8-3 and just so regret it. I thought I'd, be really, smooth, try to be smooth Andy and smoothly trim my my list, and instead I just trimmed off some winners. And so I'm thinking that this might be a one of those times where I got cute again and trimmed off a winner. So I think I'm going to regret taking off Carolina because I like that over in that. I think that despite not having Adam Thielen to throw to, Deontay Johnson's playing. I just think that you're going to have you're still going to have some opportunities against that terrible pass defense of Cincinnati, which over the past 20 games has been the worst in the entire NFL. So I like that over. I think it's going to be kind of a sneaky shootout in that one. I'll go with Smooth Andy and think that Cincinnati's going to win because how in the world can they start 0-4? But this is I definitely think it's going to be a sneaky shootout of the day.
Sweet. Let's see here. Let's go to Andrew. Has another good question. He just threw in the chat. He said, Jets, Aaron Rodgers revenge game after the whole Hackett comments from Sean Payton. You're playing Denver. You like the Jets.
Smooth Andy, any thoughts?
I don't know. Sometimes these revenge narratives, I think, get a little bit, it's like somebody beat up your third cousin kind of level of revenge. And I don't think that the way that Denver treated Hackett, I think objectively, Aaron Rodgers might have wished they gave him another year or something, but he was a disaster there. And, it's some people just aren't made to be a head coach. I find it a little hard to believe that Aaron Rodgers can just be mad about that and show up and just put up more points than he normally would. Like being angry is going to make him more effective. I just think I just don't believe in that narrative. I mean, these guys are pros. They're going to go out there and try and win every game and score as many points as they can if they're a quarterback. And I don't think that's different because of this. But I'm sure if they beat Denver and they win big, everybody's going to be talking about it. I just don't buy it, personally.
Yeah, I think it's a bad week. It's a bad spot for Denver. Personally, it made my big board. I trimmed it off the list because I didn't have a high conviction on it. But every sharp in the world is on the Jets today just because, Denver had to travel, all the way to Tampa last week. They traveled back home, short week for them. Then they're traveling back to New York, kind of a bad spot. Denver probably a little bit overvalued because they caught Tampa at the right spot. And again, Tampa doesn't have a good run defense, 31st in run efficiency. And also, I think they sacked Baker Mayfield 7 times last week just because his right tackle's out, Luke Getke, and I think that's a little bit different situation. He's walking in today. Like I said, I think that revenge thing lasts to about the first snap, and I think it's over. Like Andy was saying, and I think that Denver lost its key linebacker to I don't know if he's season injuring or if it's just IR, but he's out, and they replaced him with a guy who's been there for 3 years. I think he's taken 25 snaps, and the guy that they lost, Alex, I can't think of his last name, but he was their leading tackler, and so I think that's a problem for Denver. I just think it's a bad spot. I think the Jets probably win, probably cover, and I think this is probably a forgettable game for Bo Nix.
Awesome stuff. Thanks, Andrew, for that question. We'll take one more. We got Corky. He's wondering about Bills Ravens.
Yeah, in my notebook, I can't really talk about it. I like the game. It's the end of my best bets for the day, and it really comes down to, is this the Ravens team that we saw last week against Dallas, or are they overinflated because they ran against Dallas? Because Dallas, as we saw on Thursday night, is a very mediocre team, and Buffalo, really, who have they played? They played Arizona first game, but after that, they played Miami, who's awful, even with Tua, and they played Jacksonville, who is awful. And so, who's the real key for me? For me, again, like I talked about last week with Baltimore, is that Baltimore, their linebackers have some issues there, and they're not playing in space well. And so I thought it'd be a big day for the tight ends last week. It certainly was for Dallas last week. I mean, that's where they could feast. You saw Jake Ferguson break out last week and start having, this game. They kept going to him over and over. I expect, the same thing happened with Buffalo. You have tight ends that can work that field. Baltimore they're either worse in the league or next worst in the league as far as middle of the field, as far as giving up plays. And I think that's where Josh Allen will probably live tonight. But will it be enough against Baltimore at home? You just don't know. Baltimore's got to become this power running team, which they showed last week. They've got to continue to be that team. They've got some deficiencies on that offensive line that turned over. Will Patrick Ricard, will he play a bigger role like he played last week? I felt like that Todd Monken finally got it last week and started running the ball like he should have in the playoffs last year against Kansas City, and did last week, and had Patrick Ricard leading the way. And so it'll be really interesting to see. I think at the end of this night, I think I know who the teams are, but after tonight, I think we'll know for sure who these teams are. Smooth Andy, do you have any thoughts on this game at all?
No, same as Minnesota Green Bay. I kind of wish I had a bunch of indicators so I could have a side on this one, but It's just so even. I mean, it opened 2.5. It's still 2.5. That doesn't happen very often. 55% on the Ravens, 45 on Buffalo. That's not even statistically significant. It's just a very even game. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I personally so far been very impressed by Buffalo. I think they're for real. Baltimore seems a little shaky. So if I had a gun to my head, I'd probably be taking Buffalo on the points, but to your point, we don't really know yet what's going on with them. You can't look at John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson and say this team is, well, they're just not very good. They're going to be good. They just need to work some things out. I just think Buffalo's been just really impressive in every game I've seen them play. So
yeah, and just to clean up something from the previous question, Alex Singleton is the linebacker for Denver that's out for this game.
Awesome. Well, one more question just came in. It's Billy Walsh. He's a notebook purchaser. He asks, do you usually do more units on your best bets, circled bets in the notebook?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I'll tell you what. In the past, yes. This year, I feel like my circle bets have not performed as well as the rest of my notebook. And so this year I have, until I get my best bets down to where they should be, the notebook seems to be outperforming those. So I spread it around equally at this point. But that's a really good question. And maybe I'll switch to that later in the year. If there's a game I really, 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 really like, I'll just absolutely hammer it. But right now, everything is spread out evenly.
Definitely. Well, any last words before we take off? I know we're about an hour from kickoff.
It's about that time. Smooth Andy, any parting words for the faithful?
Some good games this week. I'm not extremely confident about my picks. There weren't a lot of night and day things, although the Chargers for me was a pretty good one. Really hoping to see that 0-3 trend keep going. That'll be nice for me today if that works. So, and then obviously looking really forward to seeing Minnesota, Green Bay, and Buffalo, Baltimore tonight. Yeah. I'm excited about this week. I can't wait to get up there and start seeing Scott Hanson pop up on the screen.
Yep. I love the music that countdowns first, that it countdowns to. So that's always something I feel like I'm turning up like back in the day in high school when I turned up Thriller. Just a different kind of enjoyment now. Yeah, to me, I like this week. I'm looking to build. Last week I loved. This week I really like, and I'm looking to build on the success we had last week. And the big thing I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find teams that I really, really know who they are. Like I said, I think I know who they are. And I think that happened last week. I started to figure out who teams were, and I'm going to test the theory that I think I know these teams this week, and looking to build on the successes and start hopefully going on a little bit of a run here. So, guys, thanks for tuning in. For Matt, who hosts the show, for Smooth Andy, the football quant, and myself, I'm Uncle Phil. Guys, thanks for tuning in. As always, let's have a day and let's roll.
Soundstripe.